Welcome to Wealth Wisdom Daily, the channel that reveals how the rich really think and why most people stay broke chasing the wrong goals. If you've been working harder, grinding longer hours, and still feel stuck, this video is going to hit different. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Poor people obsess over making more. Rich people obsess over handling more. This isn't about working harder. It's about thinking bigger. Most people try to earn more with the same mindset, same hours, and same effort. But the wealthy, they're not asking, how much can I earn? They're asking, how much can I handle, systemize, and scale? Today we're going to break down why your income is capped by your capacity, and how the rich multiply money not by doing more, but by expanding what's possible. By the end of this video, you'll never look at working harder the same way again. Let's dive in. The illusion of income. Why working more won't set you free. We've been sold a dream, a well-packaged, neatly marketed dream that says, if you work hard enough and long enough, you'll eventually be rich. It sounds noble. It sounds fair. It even feels morally right. But it's one of the greatest illusions that keep people poor. Let's break it. The dangerous equation, more work equals more money equals freedom. That's what most people believe. They think that working harder will bring more money, and more money will bring freedom. So they wake up early, stay up late, take on more shifts, accept more clients, and hustle harder every single day. But here's the cold truth. Hard work does not scale. You can't multiply time. You can't duplicate your energy. You can't keep increasing effort forever because your body, mind, and soul have limits. And if your income depends solely on your effort, then you've already hit your ceiling. The seduction of more. The reason this illusion is so powerful is because it does work at first. You take on more hours, and yes, your paycheck gets a little bigger. You pick up a side hustle, and suddenly you can afford something you couldn't last month. It feels like growth. It feels like progress. It feels like winning. But it's not. Because while your income increases, your freedom shrinks. You lose time. You lose rest. You lose presence with family. You lose space to think, breathe, and build anything beyond survival. It's like pouring more water into a cracked glass. You see it rise, but it never fills. You're not building wealth. You're just running faster on a treadmill that goes nowhere. Burnout disguised as success. One of the most dangerous moments in a poor or middle-class person's life is when they start earning more money but don't realize they're on the edge of collapse. They think they're winning. In reality, they've just become better-paid slaves. Slaves to their job, slaves to their hours, slaves to their schedule, slaves to a version of success that comes with chains they can't see. That's why people making $5,000 a month feel just as broke as when they made $2,000 a month, because their capacity hasn't changed. Only the price of their exhaustion has. You're not growing, you're stretching. There's a difference between growth and stretching. Growth expands your capacity. Stretching exhausts your current capacity. Poor people stretch. They push harder, longer, and squeeze every drop out of what they already have. Rich people grow. They step back. They design systems. They create assets. They multiply their reach without multiplying their exhaustion. If you feel like you're always working, always hustling, always tired, it's not because you're not doing enough. It's because you've confused effort with expansion. And this confusion is why millions of smart, capable, driven people stay broke. Income is not the goal. Capacity is. Here's what rich people understand that most others don't. Money is not the ultimate limit. Capacity is. If your current skills, time, network, and tools only allow you to handle $50K a year, then even if someone handed you $500K tomorrow, you wouldn't keep it. You'd lose it. You'd mismanage it. You'd spend it trying to relieve the pressure you never learned to handle. This is why lottery winners go broke, why athletes lose millions, why entrepreneurs burn out after one good year. Income without capacity is unstable. It's like adding floors to a building without strengthening the foundation. It looks taller until it collapses. The real question isn't how much can I earn? That's the wrong question. That's the poor person's question. It locks you into chasing numbers that rise but never free you. The real question is, how much can I handle, systemize, and scale? That's what the rich ask. They don't just want more money. They want more flow, more leverage, more independence from effort, more return with less direct input. They know that the person who controls more capacity controls more income. Break the cycle. So if you've been working more but getting nowhere, if you've been earning more but still feel stuck, if you've been climbing the ladder but realize it's leaning on the wrong wall, it's time to step back. Not to stop working, but to start working differently. It's time to stop maximizing your income and start maximizing your capacity. That shift changes everything. It's the difference between burnout and abundance, between hustle and flow, between staying poor and becoming wealthy. Capacity versus cash. What are you really building? Most people spend their lives chasing cash. And on the surface, it makes sense. More money means more choices, more comfort, more security. But the truth is, money isn't what builds wealth. Capacity does. Let that sink in. Because this one shift in perspective, from chasing cash to expanding capacity, is the dividing line between those who stay stuck and those who ascend into real freedom. What is capacity, really? Capacity is your ability to handle and multiply value. It includes your skills, your systems, your time management, your delegation power, your leadership, your mental endurance, your emotional resilience, your tools, networks, and resources, your ability to extract output from other people and platforms. Cash is the result. Capacity is the engine. The poor chase the result. The rich build the engine. And this is why they keep growing, even when they're not working more. Because capacity doesn't just create income, it creates repeatable, scalable, and sustainable income. Cash can be earned. Capacity must be built. You can go out today and make money. Work an extra shift, sell something, do a freelance gig, pick up a weekend job. It's fast, it's reactive, it's short-term. But capacity, it takes time, it takes discipline, it takes intention. You don't make capacity, you grow it. And just like muscles in the gym, if you don't build it, you stay weak, you stay limited. No matter how much money comes in, it will never be enough to carry you far. Because without the capacity to hold it, manage it, multiply it, money becomes a temporary visitor, not a resident. Most people build money. The wealthy build infrastructure. Look around at the middle class. What do you see? Bigger houses equals bigger mortgages. Newer cars equal monthly payments. Higher salaries equal higher expenses. More income equals more responsibilities. They don't build capacity to sustain wealth. They build obligations that drain it. But the wealthy, They do the opposite. They build systems that earn even when they sleep. They invest in people who can work for them, software that automates, structures that scale, brands that attract value without extra effort, teams that multiply output, strategies that reduce input but increase return. They don't ask, how much can I do? They ask, how many moving parts can I control without touching them? That's capacity. And capacity compounds. You don't get rich by adding. You get rich by multiplying. Poor people think linearly. If I work 10 hours, I get paid X dollars. So if I work 20 hours, I'll get 2X. It's basic math. But wealth isn't built with basic math. It's built with multiplication thinking. Multiplication thinking asks, how can this $1 create $10 without me touching it again? How can this skill be used by 1,000 people at once? How can this hour I spend today remove 100 hours of work later? Multiplication thinking is capacity thinking. It's what makes the difference between someone earning $100K from exhaustion and someone earning $1 million with peace of mind. Cash follows capacity, not the other way around. Here's what they don't tell you. If you don't have the capacity for a higher level of income, even if you get it, you won't keep it. This is why. People who suddenly go viral go broke. People who win the lottery lose it. People who scale too fast implode. People who get promoted without preparation crumble. Because cash doesn't change who you are. It exposes what you've built. And if you've built nothing, no foundation, no systems, no capacity, that money will vanish just as quickly as it arrived. So stop chasing money. Start building your ability to handle it. That's what the wealthy focus on, not their bank account, their capacity account. Because that's what determines how far you can go. What are you really building? This is the question most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. It forces you to face the truth. Are you building income or dependence on effort? Are you building appearance or infrastructure? Are you building wealth or just delaying collapse? You can look rich, you can even feel rich for a while, but without capacity, you're just a high-income liability waiting to snap. So stop chasing cash. Start building your ability to handle it. That's what the wealthy focus on, not their bank account, their capacity account, because that's what determines how far you can go. In the next part, we'll dive even deeper into the root of why people limit themselves without realizing it. Because even if you understand capacity, you might still be trapped in a mindset that sabotages it. Let's expose that trap next. The capacity trap. How you limit yourself without knowing. Most people don't live at their full potential, not because they're lazy, not because they lack talent, but because they've unknowingly capped their own capacity, mentally, emotionally, and practically. And the worst part? They don't even realize it. They think they're doing all they can, but what they're really doing is repeating what they know, inside the narrow space they believe they're allowed to occupy. This is the silent trap of capacity. You think the ceiling is external when it's actually self-imposed. Let's break that illusion. Capacity isn't just what you can do, it's what you believe you can handle. Your brain is constantly calculating risk, effort, and energy. And from a young age, you've been programmed to avoid what seems too much, stay in your comfort zone, stick to what's proven, fear complexity, fear delegation, fear the unknown. So when a new opportunity shows up that could scale your income or impact, your brain doesn't ask, is this aligned with my future? It asks, can I survive this based on who I am today? And the answer, 90% of the time, is no. Why? Because your internal capacity blueprint was set by your past, and unless you actively update it, it becomes your permanent prison. The real limits are invisible. There's a ceiling in your life, but it's not made of numbers or hours or job titles. It's made of beliefs. I'm not ready to manage people. I can't handle a six-figure business. I'm not technical enough to automate. I'm not good at leading. I don't deserve to earn more than my parents did. If I grow too fast, I'll mess it up. These thoughts don't sound like limits. They sound like truth. That's what makes them so dangerous. They're quiet, they're rational, and they're convincing. But they're also wrong. Because capacity isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you build when you stop living like a prisoner of your current self. You stay small because it feels safer. There's a strange comfort in staying overwhelmed. When you're always busy, no one expects you to grow. When you're at maximum effort, you don't have to face bigger challenges. When your schedule is packed, you feel productive even if you're not making progress. It's a protective mechanism. You're not stretching your capacity. You're just staying in a space that feels safe, even if it's slowly suffocating your future. The trap isn't that you can't grow. The trap is that you feel like you shouldn't, and that feeling keeps you stuck. People build their identity around their limits. Most people don't just experience limitation, they become it. They say things like, I'm not a business person. I'm not the leadership type. I'm just a doer, not a strategist. I'm too old to learn this. That's just not who I am. But here's the truth. You were never born with those limits. You absorb them from your environment, from people around you, from failures you never healed from systems designed to keep you average. And the longer you repeat them, the more they become your reality, not because they're true, but because you stopped questioning them. Your income didn't trap you. Your identity did. You can only receive what you're structured to hold. This is the invisible law of growth. The universe, business, life, opportunity will only give you what you're structurally capable of holding. If you don't have the capacity to manage $100K per month, even if you get it, you'll lose it. You'll burn out. You'll self-sabotage. You'll unconsciously shrink back to a level you feel safe operating at. So what happens? You get opportunities and delay. You start building, then quit halfway. You get a breakthrough, then find a way to mess it up. Not because you're broken, but because you're not aligned with the level you're trying to reach. You're trying to pour gallons of success into a shot glass-sized life structure. It won't hold. It can't hold. To grow richer, you must first grow bigger. The only way out of the trap is to shift your identity, not just your strategy. Because if you don't become the kind of person who can carry more, you'll always settle for less. This means upgrading how you think, expanding what you tolerate, learning to lead, not just follow, replacing habits of control with habits of delegation, seeing yourself as a builder of systems, not just a doer of tasks. When you grow your mental and emotional capacity, your practical capacity follows. And when your capacity expands, so does your income, so does your impact, so does your life. The trap can be broken, but you have to be willing. This trap isn't physical. No one is forcing you to stay small. You're just living by default. And default settings don't build extraordinary lives. So if you want to escape this invisible prison, you must begin by challenging everything you believe about what you're meant to handle. Ask yourself, what am I truly capable of if I stopped limiting myself? What would my life look like if I operated at full capacity? What structures, systems, and support do I need to make that happen? That's where real wealth begins. Not in your wallet, in your willingness to grow into something greater than your current self. And in the next part, we'll explore what happens when people stretch themselves instead of scaling, and why that's a fast track to collapse, not success. Scaling versus stretching, two completely different paths. From the outside, they look the same. One person is working 14 hours a day. Another person is managing 14 people a day. Both are busy, both are producing, both are getting results. But dig deeper, and you'll find they're not on the same path at all. One is stretching, trying to do more with the same personal effort. The other is scaling, designing systems that expand output without increasing input. And this difference is everything. Stretching is survival. Scaling is strategy. Let's define it clearly. Stretching equals squeezing more out of your current self. Scaling equals designing systems that operate beyond yourself. Stretching says, let me take on one more client. Let me stay up another hour. Let me push just a bit harder. Scaling says, let me hire someone for this task. Let me automate that workflow. Let me remove myself from the process. Stretching is linear. Scaling is exponential. Stretching increases effort. Scaling increases structure. Stretching adds weight to your back. Scaling adds wheels to your load. And over time, stretching breaks you. Scaling frees you. You can't stretch your way to wealth. There's a hard limit to how much effort one human can produce. You only have 24 hours. You only have so much focus. Your body can only handle so much stress. That's why most people plateau, not because they don't want more, but because they're trying to stretch beyond human capacity. They're stuck in a loop. I just work harder, if I just sleep less, if I just hustle more. But there's no amount of hustle that can outpace strategic scale. Meanwhile, the wealthy, they stop trying to be superheroes. Instead, they become architects. They ask, how can I remove myself from the bottleneck? How can I build something that runs without me? How can I multiply results without multiplying effort? That's the mindset of scale. Stretching makes you feel in control until you break. One reason people stretch instead of scale is control. When you're doing everything yourself, you feel safe. You know the quality. You know the routine. You know where every dollar goes. But this control is a trap, because the more you control, the more you confine. You can't grow something that's chained to your fingers. Every empire ever built required one crucial step: letting go. Letting go of control over every task. Letting go of perfection. Letting go of the fear that others won't do it right. Letting go of the identity that says, I have to do it all. Until you do, you'll keep stretching, and eventually, you'll snap. Burnout is not just physical, it's structural. It comes when you operate beyond your design. Scaling redesigns your operation. Stretching just pushes it harder until it collapses. Scaling is about systems, not superstars. People who scale don't rely on being brilliant. They rely on being replaceable. Yes, you read that right. They build systems so solid that they could step away for a week, a month, even a year, and it would still grow. Because they understand, if it only works when you are there, it's not a business, it's a job. Poor people try to be irreplaceable. Rich people build things that don't need them. This is why entrepreneurs who scale not only make more money, they get back their time, health, and freedom. They don't live to serve the machine. They build the machine to serve them. Stretching traps you in effort. Scaling unlocks leverage. Let's say you make $100 for every hour you work. Stretching says, let's do 10 more hours. Scaling says, let's hire 10 people to do 1 hour each, and I'll keep $10 from each. Both make $1,000, but one is exhausted. The other is evolving. That's leverage. Stretching increases what you do. Scaling increases what gets done without you. And the truth is, most people aren't exhausted from work. They're exhausted from doing everything themselves. Scaling is the escape route. You'll never scale what you don't trust. Here's why most people stay stuck in stretch mode. They don't trust people. They don't trust systems. They don't trust automation. And worst of all, they don't trust themselves to lead instead of do. They've been so conditioned to be the hard worker that stepping into the role of designer, delegator, and director feels uncomfortable, even wrong. But that discomfort is where wealth begins. Because you can't scale what you don't trust, and you can't grow beyond what you're willing to release. So you have to choose. Will you keep stretching the old you, or start building the scaled-up version of your future? Busy is not the goal. Built is. Stretching keeps you busy. Scaling builds something that outlives your schedule. Stretching feeds your ego. Scaling feeds your freedom. Stretching earns money. Scaling earns leverage. And over time, the path you choose determines whether you stay stuck in survival or rise into the world of true wealth. In the next part, we'll expose the worst kind of trap, the one that seems noble on the outside, but kills freedom from the inside. The hourly handcuffs. Why time for money always fails. It sounds reasonable. It even feels fair. You give an hour, you get paid. You show up, you earn. You work harder, you make more. That's the way most people operate. That's the way most people stay broke. Because trading time for money is the invisible handcuff that keeps you locked in place, even as you work harder, longer, and better. You think you're making progress, but what you're really doing is renting your life 1 hour at a time. The trap looks honest. Society praises the time for money model. You show up on time. You put in the effort. You log your hours. You take pride in being productive. But here's the ugly truth. The time for money model is the most limited business model on earth. Because there's one thing you can never increase, no matter how hard you work, and that's time. You have 24 hours, so does everyone else. It doesn't matter if you're brilliant, talented, or passionate. Once you've sold those 24 hours, you're done. You've hit your cap. And the moment you stop selling them, the money stops too. Hourly thinking is financial slavery with a smile. Most people don't realize it, but their job is a subscription to survival. You have to pay with time every week to stay afloat. If you stop showing up, the money stops. If you get sick, the money stops. If you want a break, the money stops. You're not getting rich, you're just surviving. And the worst part? You're renting your most valuable, irreplaceable asset, your time, for a fixed, capped reward. No matter how amazing you are, your paycheck has a ceiling, because your time has a ceiling, because you have a ceiling. Unless you shift the model entirely. Wealthy people know time is a terrible thing to sell. If you look at truly wealthy individuals, you'll notice something. They don't sell time. They sell results, systems, assets, and value. They use time, not to earn, but to build things that earn. That's the difference. Poor and middle-class people use time to earn money. Rich people use time to build capacity, systems, and leverage that earn money for them. One is survival, the other is wealth architecture. Hourly thinking kills creativity. When every hour must be monetized, your brain never gets space to breathe. You don't have time to innovate. You don't have time to reflect. You don't have time to build something bigger because every free moment feels like lost income. This mindset is dangerous. You become a machine, not a creator. A doer, not a designer. A worker, not a builder. And here's the irony. The people who feel most productive are often the most replaceable because they're stuck inside the machine, not above it. You don't get wealthy by clocking in. You get wealthy by owning what gets clocked in. Let's be brutally honest. The janitor clocks in. The receptionist clocks in. The factory worker clocks in. Even the six-figure consultant still clocks in. But the owner, the system builder, the investor, they get paid whether they clock in or not. Because wealth isn't about hours, it's about ownership. And if you're always trading hours for dollars, then someone else owns your time. They decide what it's worth. They decide when it ends. They decide how far you go. You're not in control. They are. More hours doesn't equal more freedom. This is where most people get stuck. They say, if I just work 10 more hours a week, if I just take on more clients, if I just charge more per hour, but they're still inside the same box. Because increasing the price of your time doesn't remove the trap, it just polishes the cage. You're still limited, you're still stuck, you're still bound to hours, presence, and exhaustion. You might make more money, but you're not more free. You're just more expensive. The hourly model punishes growth. Here's something few realize. The more valuable you become, the more the time for money model punishes you. Why? Because your ideas, your insights, your leadership, they can generate value far beyond what a clock can measure. But if you're stuck billing hourly, you can't capture that value. You're still stuck charging $100 an hour, even though your presence could be worth $10,000 a day. Time for money disconnects value from reward. And that means the more you grow, the more you lose, unless you break free. There is a better way. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow, but you do need to start designing a future where you no longer sell time. You sell systems, assets, and results. This could look like building a product once and selling it forever. Creating a course, tool, or brand that scales. Hiring others to deliver value you've designed. Investing in platforms that generate passive return. Automating a service that doesn't require your hours. The point isn't how you do it. The point is why you must. Because the longer you stay in the time for money model, the longer you stay trapped in a loop that leads nowhere. You don't escape poverty by selling time. You escape by building something bigger than time. In the next part, we'll explore how the wealthy shift out of this trap, not by working harder, but by working broader. They don't try to be everywhere. They just make more happen without them. The rich don't work harder. They work broader. Let's kill the myth once and for all. The rich don't work harder than you. They work differently. They work broader. They don't have more hours. They don't have more hands. They don't even have more talent in many cases. What they have is reach. They've built lives, businesses, and structures where more gets done by more people, platforms, and systems without their constant presence. And that's why they keep growing, even while you're burning out. Let's break this down. Hard work is not the differentiator anymore. If hard work alone built wealth, every farmer would be a billionaire. But they're not, because we live in a world where effort doesn't equal outcome. Structure does. You can hustle 16 hours a day. You can sleep 4 hours a night. You can grind every waking moment and still be stuck, still tired, still broke. Why? Because your output is still tied to your input. You haven't built anything that grows without you. Meanwhile, the rich, they might work just 3 hours today, but their reach is global. Their message spreads. their product sells, their team builds, their capital moves. Their presence is no longer required because their capacity is multiplied. They don't do more, they deploy more. Let's get something straight. The rich are not doing 100 tasks a day. They're not answering every email, they're not handling every customer, they're not posting on every platform themselves. They're deploying teams, tools, templates, technology, talent. They are not inside every process. They own the process. That's the real game. And the more you try to do everything, the further you fall behind because you're competing with people who stopped doing and started distributing. One person, 10 arms, 1,000 outcomes. This is how the rich think. One decision today should trigger a chain reaction of value tomorrow. One video should be repurposed into 10 pieces of content. One system should be run by 10 people. One message should influence 10,000 minds. 1 hour of thinking should replace 100 hours of scrambling. They don't think in tasks, they think in ripple effects. The average person says, "How much can I get done today?" The rich say, "What can I create today that will keep working without me?" That's the power of working broader. Depth is important, but breadth is what scales. You can go deep into your craft. You can master your skills. You can become the best at what you do. But if you don't expand your distribution, delegation, and delivery, you'll always be confined by your personal reach. The rich focus on both: depth for value creation, breadth for value delivery. They know it's not enough to be great. You must be accessible, replicable, scalable. That's how one brilliant idea becomes a billion-dollar brand, not because it's better, but because it was broadcast broader. You're not supposed to do it all. You're supposed to design it all. This is where most people sabotage their future. They think being hands-on makes them valuable. But that's not leadership. That's micromanagement. The real role of a wealth builder is not to be busy. It's to be strategic. Build the blueprint. Choose the people. Set the standards. Install the systems. Then get out of the way. Because once something is built, and built well, it should work whether you're there or not. The rich don't just build businesses, they build ecosystems. Broader doesn't mean busier, it means smarter. Let's be clear, working broader isn't about taking on more. It's about designing more that doesn't depend on you. Poor and middle-class workers say, "If I want more, I need to work more." Rich thinkers say, "If I want more, I need to make more possible without me." That's the mindset shift, and it changes everything. You don't need to work like a machine, you need to build one. This is the golden rule of leverage. The rich don't become the machine, they build the machine. They create a brand that sells while they sleep, a funnel that converts without their presence, a team that delivers consistent results, a schedule that protects their energy, a portfolio that pays them every month. They invest in infrastructure, not just income. So, while others are exhausting themselves trying to do everything, they quietly build systems that do everything for them. That's working broader. Start expanding your radius of impact. Ask yourself right now, are you doing everything yourself? Are you the bottleneck of your own business, your income, your results? Have you built anything that works when you're not around? If you disappeared for 30 days, would your income survive? If the answer is no, then your capacity is narrow. Your future is fragile. Your wealth is capped. But here's the good news. You can change that today. Start thinking broader. Delegate one task. Document one system. Automate one process. Train one person. Build one tool. Design one strategy. Because the more you broaden what gets done without you, the closer you get to freedom. And in the next part, we'll explore exactly how the rich multiply their efforts, not by working more, but by choosing the right leverage tools, people, systems, and platforms that do the heavy lifting. Leverage is the key. People, systems, and tools. If there's one word that separates the rich from everyone else, it's this: leverage. Leverage is the ultimate multiplier. It's how one person does the work of 10. It's how one decision can unlock decades of income. It's how growth continues even when the person behind it steps away. The wealthy don't rely on effort. They rely on leverage because they understand a deeper truth. You will always be limited until you learn how to multiply yourself. And the way to do that is not by doing more, but by building with leverage through people, systems, and tools. Let's break this down. What is leverage? Leverage is getting results greater than your personal input. It means you put in 1 hour and get 10 hours of output. It means you build once and get value over and over. It means your time, energy, and focus are no longer the bottleneck. When you use leverage, your effort is no longer tied to your income. Instead of working harder, you design smarter. And instead of grinding endlessly, you create something that grows without you. That's real power. That's real wealth. The 3 core types of leverage. There are 3 main ways the rich use leverage to expand their capacity. 1. People. Multiply through others. This is the oldest and most scalable form of leverage. Other people. Wealthy people don't try to do everything themselves. They hire, they delegate, they build teams. They surround themselves with people who are better at specific tasks, and they empower them to execute. The poor think, no one will do it as well as I can. The rich think, who can I train so I never have to do this again? The moment you let go of the need to be in control of every detail, you open the door to exponential growth. Hiring one good person can give you back hundreds of hours a year. Delegating one key task can remove a constant mental weight. Building a team gives you breadth of impact, depth of execution, and freedom of time. Leadership is not about doing everything. It's about building the structure where everything gets done without you. 2. Systems. Multiply through process. Systems are structured processes that run with consistency. They take decision-making out of your day-to-day. They reduce chaos and increase clarity. They eliminate the need to reinvent the wheel every time. Rich people build systems for sales and onboarding, client management, communication and follow-up, hiring and training, product delivery, financial tracking, marketing automation. Because systems don't get tired, they don't forget, they don't make emotional decisions. They just run over and over. The poor wake up and ask, what do I need to do today? The wealthy wake up and ask, what's running while I sleep? Systems don't eliminate effort, they multiply its return. Once built, a system becomes a silent machine that works for you, even on your worst day. 3. Tools. Multiply through technology. We're living in the most technologically leveraged era in history. One person can now reach millions. One tool can replace entire departments. One automated process can save thousands of hours. And yet most people are still doing everything manually. Poor people see tools as expenses. Rich people see tools as investments in scale. Whether it's scheduling software, marketing platforms, customer support bots, CRMs, or AI-powered systems, the wealthy use tools to remove repetitive work and free up mental space. They ask, how can I make this happen without me? They invest time up front to set it up, and then it runs, grows, and adapts without burnout. Technology is not your enemy. It's your unpaid employee. It works 24/7, never complains, and costs a fraction of what a human would. And the longer you delay using it, the more hours you waste trying to do what machines were made to do better. No leverage, no escape. Without leverage, everything depends on you. You are the worker, the thinker, the driver, the operator, the executor. Which means if you get tired, progress stops. If you get sick, income disappears. If you want a break, the entire machine shuts down. This is not business ownership. It's glorified self-employment with burnout baked in. Leverage is your escape route. With leverage, you gain back time, reduce stress, scale output, protect your energy, and unlock sustainable momentum. And most importantly, you stop being the engine and start being the architect. Change the questions you ask. Everything starts with a better question. Stop asking, how do I do this? How can I find the time? How can I handle it all? Start asking, who can take this over for me? What system can run this consistently? What tool can automate this better than I can? How can I multiply my impact without multiplying my hours? You don't need to work harder. You need to build smarter. And leverage is how you do it. Build with leverage or stay stuck without it. You have a choice. You can keep doing everything yourself. You can stay stuck in the cycle of effort for survival. You can keep earning what your hands can handle. Or you can shift. You can build with people. You can scale with systems. You can accelerate with tools. That's how the wealthy operate. That's how they grow while others grind. That's how they create freedom, not just income. Because income without leverage is a treadmill, but income with leverage becomes an elevator. In the next part, we'll explore how this elevator works, how leverage transforms your income from linear to exponential, from effort-based to systems-based. The multiplication effect, from linear to exponential wealth. Most people live in a world of linear results. They work 1 hour, they get paid once. They do one task, they see one outcome. And they repeat this day after day, year after year. This is the linear path, predictable, safe, and utterly limiting. But the wealthy, they live in a completely different world. A world where one effort doesn't just pay once, it pays again and again. A world where one decision creates a ripple of returns. A world where one strategy multiplies outcomes for years to come. This is the multiplication effect, and it's the secret engine behind exponential wealth. Linear thinking keeps you trapped in effort. Linear thinking says, I get what I work for. No more, no less. It's built on effort. You get out what you put in. No leverage, no scale, no momentum. That's why most people feel stuck, not because they aren't doing enough, but because everything they do dies after it's done. You complete a task, it's over. You deliver a service, you're paid once. You work a shift, your value ends when the hour ends. Nothing compounds, nothing continues, nothing builds upon itself. You're constantly starting from zero every single day. That's not progress, that's a loop. Multiplication thinking changes everything. Now compare that to multiplication thinking. The wealthy ask, how can I do something once and benefit forever? How can this decision echo across multiple channels, clients, or outcomes? How can this system keep producing without my attention? How can I create something that builds itself over time? They don't just think about work, they think about impact per action. One article becomes a book. One video becomes a brand. One sale becomes a client for life. 1 hour of setup becomes 10,000 automated actions. It's not magic, it's architecture, it's structure, it's intention. The rich don't work more, they work smarter and design their work to multiply. You can't get rich on linear input. This is the harsh truth. No one gets truly wealthy working linearly. Because even if you charge more, even if you work faster, even if you get more efficient, you're still limited by your own capacity. You still have to show up. You still have to do the thing. You still have to manage the flow. And when you stop, it stops. Real wealth requires output without constant input. It requires growth without strain. It requires return without repetition. That's what the multiplication effect creates. Multiplication is a mindset and a system. You don't stumble into exponential growth. You build for it. You think for it. You plan for it. This means you stop thinking like a worker and you start thinking like a builder. You stop focusing on what gets done and you start focusing on what keeps working. You stop asking, what can I finish today? And you start asking, what can I create today that will keep producing value forever? You need to shift your default mode from completion to continuation, from transaction to transformation, from now to next. Because multiplication isn't a task, it's a lens you apply to everything you touch. One input, endless output. Here's what this looks like in practice. You write one sales script, it trains your entire team. You build one landing page, it collects leads forever. You create one onboarding system, it replaces hours of manual explanation. You record one course, it earns money every month for years. You train one leader, they manage a team for you. You set up one ad, it sells while you sleep. You automate one email sequence, it nurtures thousands without your time. These aren't just efficiencies, they're multipliers. Each one disconnects your time from your income. Each one frees you from repetition. Each one builds a future that isn't dependent on your presence. That's real freedom. That's real capacity. Most people multiply stress. The rich multiply systems. Here's the tragic irony. Poor and middle-class workers do more all the time, but they're multiplying the wrong thing. They multiply stress. They multiply tasks. They multiply responsibilities. They multiply hours without increasing outcomes. This leads to burnout, exhaustion, plateaus. Meanwhile, the rich multiply results. They multiply reach. They multiply impact. They multiply value with less energy. The question is, which are you multiplying? Think beyond the first layer. If you want to build multiplication into your life, you have to train your mind to think beyond surface action. Ask, what's the second layer of impact this could create? How could this one thing solve 10 future problems? Can this process be duplicated by someone else? Can this content be repurposed across platforms? Can this idea live beyond my calendar? That's how you go from one sale to a system that generates endless sales. From one solution to a structure that eliminates the problem for good. Wealth is never built in one layer. It's stacked. And multiplication is how you build the layers. You are one shift away from compounding. Right now, your time, energy, and focus are either compounding or evaporating. If everything you do ends when you stop doing it, you are living in evaporation mode. But if you start designing each effort to outlive the moment, you move into compounding mode. And that's when life changes. That's when wealth becomes real. That's when you stop chasing results and start owning them. In the next part, we'll talk about the internal transformation required to make this sustainable. Because it's not just about strategy, it's about how you see yourself. Are you a laborer of effort or an architect of systems? Stop doing, start designing. From laborer to architect. Most people spend their lives doing the work, doing the tasks, doing what's asked, doing what they've always done. And for a while, that feels productive. It feels right. It even feels noble. But doing is not the path to wealth. Doing is the path to exhaustion. If you want to build real capacity, real freedom, and real wealth, you must make the shift from laborer to architect. You must stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What should I design?" That one change in mindset transforms your entire trajectory. The laborer works inside the system. The architect designs the system. The laborer wakes up and asks, "What needs to get done today?" The architect wakes up and asks, "How can I build something that handles this automatically?" The laborer spends time executing. The architect spends time engineering. The laborer lives inside the machine. The architect builds the machine. The laborer works for income. The architect builds for scale. One is replaceable. The other is rare. The world rewards labor with paychecks. It rewards architecture with ownership. Which are you aiming for? If you're always doing, you're always distracted. When you're stuck in doing, your mind is always full. You're always reacting, always responding, always catching up, always behind. You don't have time to think. You don't have space to plan. You don't have margin to innovate. You're too busy putting out fires to ever build a fireproof building. But design requires space. It requires clarity. It requires stepping back. You cannot architect a better life while buried inside the one you're trying to escape. That's why you must shift. From being the person who gets everything done to being the person who decides what gets done, how it gets done, and by whom. That's the role of the architect. The architect builds systems that make the laborer obsolete. This isn't about looking down on workers. It's about designing systems so well that the manual work becomes optional or eliminated entirely. Think about the builders of great companies. They don't answer customer service emails. They build a help desk. They don't process every sale. They build an automated checkout. They don't train every employee. They build training systems. They don't do every task. They design teams that deliver results consistently. The goal is not to work harder. It's to build smarter. When you think like an architect, you begin asking powerful questions. How can this run without me? What process is missing here? Where's the bottleneck, and how do I eliminate it forever? What system would solve this once instead of dealing with it daily? This is how you escape the loop of constant doing. The rich think in structures. The poor and middle-class workers live by their to-do list. Every day is a repeat of the last. Tasks, hours, deadlines, meetings. It feels like they're moving, but in reality, they're spinning. The rich don't live by tasks. They live by structures. They build calendars that protect focus, teams that absorb responsibility, tools that automate repetition, systems that remove friction, processes that allow scale. They don't ask, what do I need to do today? They ask, what am I building today that removes work tomorrow? That's how you multiply time. That's how you scale your impact. That's how you grow your capacity, not by pushing harder, but by designing better. The real wealth is in what you can walk away from. Here's a question that will reveal your true level of capacity. If you walked away from your work for 30 days, what would still be running? Would clients still be served? Would money still come in? Would operations still function? Would growth still happen? If the answer is no, then you're not free. You're trapped in a system that only works when you do. That's not wealth. That's dependence. The rich don't just build income. They build infrastructure. They build architecture. They build systems that grow even when they rest. This isn't luck. It's the result of thinking long-term, structurally, and strategically. Design now to buy back time later. Every minute you spend designing a system today is an hour you don't have to spend tomorrow. Every hour you spend documenting a process is a full day you'll save training someone later. Every weekend you invest building infrastructure is a future where weekends are optional. Wealth is built in the details you design now, the decisions you won't have to make again, the questions you won't have to keep answering, the tasks you'll never have to repeat. Architects don't look busy, but they're building what keeps everyone else working. That's real capacity. From now on, don't just build, architect. The laborer says, I'll just do it myself. The architect says, I'll figure out how to never do this again. The laborer works harder, the architect works wider and deeper. The laborer depends on time. The architect depends on design. You get to choose. Keep building with your hands or start building with your mind. Start seeing every task, every process, every repeated headache as a design opportunity, not a burden to carry forever. Because the moment you become the architect, you stop being the bottleneck. And in the next part, we'll expose how most people sabotage their power by giving it away, outsourcing their control while the rich protect it and multiply it. Why poor people outsource their power and rich people don't. Power is not always taken, it's often given away. Most people don't lose control of their future because someone stole it. They lose it because they outsourced it, unknowingly, over time. Outsource their choices, outsource their thinking, outsource their responsibility. And in doing so, they became trapped, not by oppression, but by delegated dependence. Meanwhile, the rich, they guard their power. They build systems that extend their control, not surrender it. They delegate tasks, but they never delegate direction. That's the difference, and that's why power and wealth flow in one direction. Let's unpack this. Most people don't want freedom, they want safety. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't actually want full control over their life. They want the illusion of control, wrapped in the comfort of predictability. They say they want freedom, but they're terrified of responsibility. They say they want to lead, but they don't want to be blamed when things go wrong. So what do? They outsource their power. They let jobs define their income. They let employers define their time. They let schools define what's worth learning. They let culture define what's normal. They let habits define who they become. And over time, their life becomes something they manage, not something they own. They hand off decision-making to systems that don't care about them, then wonder why they feel stuck, small, and replaceable. This is the silent cost of outsourcing power. You don't build wealth by surrendering direction. You can delegate execution. You can delegate administration. You can delegate support. But if you delegate direction, you're no longer in control. You've become a passenger in your own business, in your own brand, in your own goals, in your own potential. Poor and middle-class people constantly ask, "What should I do? Can someone just tell me the steps? What's the system I should follow?" They want someone else to decide because decision-making feels risky. But the wealthy? They ask, "What's the outcome I want? And how do I design the path toward it?" They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for instruction. They don't wait to be told what to build. They assume responsibility for the vision, the values, and the vehicle. That's real power. And that's why their capacity grows, because they never hand off the wheel. Dependence is comfortable until it becomes a cage. Here's how it starts. You take a job. It's easy, stable, predictable. You accept the routine. You accept the schedule. You accept the terms. And little by little, you forget what it feels like to choose, to create, to risk, to lead. Then one day, they cut your hours, or restructure your role, or replace you with a younger, cheaper option. And you realize you didn't build anything. You rented security, and now it's gone. This is the danger of outsourcing power. It feels safe until it's not. Ownership is the foundation of capacity. The rich don't avoid responsibility. They run toward it because they know you can't grow what you don't own. You can't scale what you don't lead. You can't multiply what you've outsourced entirely. So they build. Brands they control. Teams they lead. Products they design. Audiences they own. Even when they delegate, they stay connected to the strategy, vision, and mission. Because they understand, if you give away your direction, you give away your destiny. Take back what you've given away. Ask yourself, are you letting others decide your income? Are you letting algorithms decide your attention? Are you letting old habits decide your path? Are you letting fear decide your limits? Every "I can't" is often just an unconscious surrender. Every "that's not me" is a story someone else told you and you believed it. But you can take it back, all of it. You can reclaim your vision, reclaim your standards, reclaim your direction, reclaim your power. It starts with one shift. Stop outsourcing what only you can define. You are the owner. You are the architect. You are the driver. The moment you stop handing over your power is the moment your capacity begins to expand. And in the next part, we'll explore the next level of freedom. Not just having time, but understanding where true time freedom actually comes from. Time freedom comes from capacity, not cash. Everyone wants time freedom. They say things like, "If I just made more money, I'd finally be free. If I had a six-figure income, I could slow down. If I hit seven figures, I'd retire early and live life on my terms." But here's the truth. Money doesn't buy time freedom. Capacity does. Because if your systems are broken, your mindset is reactive, and your life still depends on your constant effort, more money just makes the prison more comfortable. It doesn't open the gate. Let's break the illusion. The lie. If I get rich, I'll have more time. This is the most seductive false promise in the modern world. People think freedom is a number. They think if they hit a magic income threshold, time will suddenly open up. But what actually happens, they get a raise and buy more obligations. They earn more and take on more commitments. They grow their income, but also their stress, their responsibilities, and their hours. The money grows, the freedom shrinks. Because income is just one factor. Capacity is the real limiter. Without capacity, every extra dollar comes with an invisible cost: your time, your energy, your peace. More cash without more capacity creates chaos. Here's what people don't understand. When you increase your income but not your infrastructure, you don't create freedom, you create pressure. Because now you have more clients to serve, projects to manage, emails to respond to, tasks to juggle, expectations to meet. And if your systems aren't ready to absorb that growth, you become the bottleneck. That's not freedom. That's just a more expensive form of burnout. You'll work longer hours to protect your income. You'll say yes to everything out of fear of losing momentum. You'll become trapped by the very success you thought would set you free. This is why entrepreneurs crash, why high-income earners burn out, why people with money still feel poor in time, in energy, in life. Because cash is not the cure. Capacity is. What is time freedom really? Time freedom is not about sitting on a beach doing nothing. It's not about escaping responsibility. It's not about laziness, idleness, or passivity. True time freedom is the ability to choose what you do, when you do it, why you do it, who you do it with, and how much energy you want to give. It's not about having no schedule. It's about owning your schedule. It's not about quitting work. It's about designing work that works for you, not the other way around. And that comes from how you build, not how much you earn. Rich people buy time, not just toys. When the poor get more money, they upgrade their lifestyle. When the rich get more money, they upgrade their systems. One buys more things. The other buys more time. Because they know money disappears, time never comes back. So they invest in people who replace their tasks, systems that automate their flow, tools that remove friction, teams that expand their output, boundaries that protect their energy, calendars that create space, environments that preserve focus. And over time, their wealth is no longer about numbers. It's about margin, mental margin, emotional margin, time margin. That's real wealth. The ability to slow down without losing momentum, to say no without fear, to rest without guilt, to live without rushing. And that only comes when you build capacity, not just chase income. If you have no time, you have no freedom. It doesn't matter if you make $10K a month or $100K a month. If you don't control your time, you're not free. You're just highly paid and highly trapped. Because time is the container of your life. It's the one thing you can't create more of. So the question isn't, how can I make more money? The question is, how can I expand my capacity so I need less time to create more value? That's the formula for true time freedom. Not absence from work, but independence from obligation. Not escape from effort, but empowerment through structure. Not quitting, but choosing with clarity and control. Build a life that doesn't need you to be busy. Most people don't want freedom. They want distraction. They stay busy so they don't have to think. They stay productive so they feel useful. They stay in motion so they don't feel empty. But busyness is not success. It's often a symptom of misaligned capacity. Freedom is found in intentional space, in knowing that what needs to run will still run without you, because you've built it that way, because you've designed for it, because your capacity matches your ambition. And when that alignment happens, You don't have to choose between money and time. You get both. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the mental game of capacity and how internal limits create external ceilings. Because until you expand how you think, you'll always shrink what you earn. The mental ceiling. If you don't expand it, you'll hit it. Every person lives under a ceiling, but here's what most people don't realize. That ceiling is not physical, it's not financial, it's not educational, it's mental. The greatest barrier to your next level of success is not your resources, it's not your time, it's not even your environment, it's your mindset. Because you will never outperform the limits of your own thinking. You will never rise above what you believe is possible. And you will never build more than what your internal blueprint allows. Until you expand your mind, you'll keep hitting the same invisible wall. Let's break it. You don't live at your potential, you live at your belief. You may be capable of more. You may want more. You may even try harder than everyone around you. But if deep down you believe, I'm not the kind of person who leads. I can't manage a team. I don't deserve that kind of success. That level of income isn't for people like me. I'm too old, too late, too far behind. Then you will subconsciously sabotage anything that exceeds that belief. You'll underprice yourself. You'll delay launching. You'll avoid decisions. You'll procrastinate on the very thing that could change your life. Not because you can't, but because somewhere inside you believe you shouldn't. That's the mental ceiling, and it's stronger than any financial struggle you've ever faced. Most people build their lives around limitation. We've been trained from a young age to play small and follow rules. Don't be too ambitious. Don't ask for too much. Don't stand out. Don't risk failure. So we build tiny cages in our heads and call it being realistic. We set goals just above our current life, but never beyond what feels safe. We surround ourselves with people who reinforce our current comfort zone, and we mistake the familiar for the truth. But here's the truth. If you only grow in what you already believe, you will never experience who you could become. You don't need more information. You need a bigger internal frame to hold the next level of your life. Your thoughts set the limit on your capacity. Capacity doesn't start with systems. It doesn't start with delegation. It starts with identity. Who do you think you are? What do you believe you're capable of? What size of responsibility do you feel worthy to carry? What level of complexity do you believe you can handle? Because your business, your income, your influence, they will never grow beyond the size of your mind. You'll reject abundance you don't feel aligned with. You'll shrink back from opportunities you feel unqualified for. You'll settle for good enough because you're afraid to become someone new. The ceiling is not in your business, it's in your thinking. The mind was made to stretch, not stay still. Your brain is a tool, but most people use it like a cage. They replay the past, they predict failure, they anticipate rejection, they reinforce limitation. But the mind is designed to expand when challenged, when exposed to new ideas, when surrounded by new models, when invited to grow. This means reading things that confront your comfort, listening to people who are where you want to be, asking better questions, sitting with uncomfortable truths, letting go of your need to be right and choosing to become more instead. Growth is painful because it threatens your identity, but so is staying small because it starves your potential. You choose your pain. One leads to freedom, the other leads to regret. What you tolerate mentally becomes what you settle for practically. If you tolerate mental chaos, you'll accept disorganized execution. If you tolerate small thinking, you'll attract small results. If you tolerate fear-based decisions, you'll keep building weak foundations. If you tolerate emotional clutter, you'll never have space for clarity. And it all begins not in your environment, but in your internal boundaries. What thoughts are you allowing to shape your day? What assumptions are you carrying from childhood, culture, or past failure? What beliefs are limiting what you say yes to? Until you clean the lens you see yourself through, you'll keep building a distorted version of your potential. You don't need to become someone else. You need to strip away everything that told you you're not enough. That's how you rise. That's how the ceiling lifts. Expansion outside requires expansion inside. You can hire more people. You can build better systems. You can automate your workflow. You can even triple your income. But if your mind hasn't expanded to receive it, hold it, and lead it, you'll find a way to lose it. You'll fall back to the level where you feel safe, where you feel seen, where you feel certain. That's not sabotage, that's survival. Your nervous system is just trying to protect the current version of you. But your destiny isn't meant to protect you, it's meant to transform you. So don't just build for more, become someone who can hold more. And in the next part, we'll dive into how to make that growth tangible, daily, and irreversible. Because expanding your mental capacity isn't a one-time shift. It's a daily practice of becoming. Building capacity daily. Practical shifts that compound. Capacity isn't built in one day. It's not a breakthrough. It's not a seminar. It's not a sudden moment of clarity. It's a practice. Capacity is built by how you live, not just by what you learn. It's built daily, through small, intentional shifts that compound over time. Not flashy, not overnight, but powerful. Because the secret of the rich is not that they were born with more, it's that they built more, consistently, strategically, and deliberately. Let's talk about how you can do the same. You grow by design, not default. Most people live by reaction. They wake up and handle whatever comes at them. Their calendar runs them. Their phone dictates their attention. Their energy is scattered across 100 unimportant tasks. They don't grow, they maintain. But if you want to build capacity, you need to flip the script. You need to shift from reaction to design. This starts with one powerful question every morning. What am I building today that gives me more space, not more stress? Not just what needs to get done, but what improves my infrastructure? What strengthens my systems? What gives me back time tomorrow? If you build with that mindset, you don't just finish tasks, you expand your future. Practical shift number 1. Invest in energy, not just output. You can't build capacity if you're always depleted. Most people burn out because they manage tasks, not energy. They ask, what do I have to do today? Instead of, what will allow me to show up at my best? Here's what building capacity looks like. Protecting your sleep like your business depends on it, because it does. Scheduling breaks to restore creativity, not as a luxury, but as a ritual. Moving your body to move your mind. Saying no to things that drain you, even if they look productive. Rich people don't brag about being tired. They build their lives to be sustainable. Because a worn-out mind can't scale. A fried nervous system can't lead. And a burned-out body can't carry a big vision. You don't just need more output, you need more energy to lead. Practical shift number 2. Schedule strategy, not just action. Most people's calendars are filled with what they need to do. Very few make time to think about why they're doing it, how to improve it, or what could replace it. But thinking is building. Thinking is expanding. High-capacity leaders block time every week for reviewing what's working and what's wasting, designing better processes, planning future growth, reflecting on what must change. Even 30 minutes a day of clear, uninterrupted strategy time can change the trajectory of your business and life. You don't rise by doing more. You rise by doing what matters more and removing the rest. Practical shift number 3. Delegate one more thing every week. Capacity isn't just about what you carry. It's about what you no longer carry. And delegation isn't an event. It's a discipline. You don't wait until you're drowning. You proactively hand off what no longer requires your attention. Here's how to build capacity through delegation. Each week, identify one task you repeat and hand it off. Each month, document one process and train someone else. Each quarter, review your role and redesign it for elevation, not repetition. Every task you release gives you back mental bandwidth. Every process you automate gives you back time. Every responsibility you transfer gives you space to grow. You were not born to do everything. You were born to design everything. Practical shift number 4. Audit your inputs ruthlessly. Your brain is shaped by what you consume. If you fill your mind with noise, comparison, distraction, and fear, your capacity will shrink. High-capacity people are not just productive, they're selective. They audit the conversations they entertain, the content they absorb, the people they spend time with, the environments they work in, the problems they give energy to. Because not everything deserves your focus, and every distraction steals from your potential. To build capacity, you must guard your inputs like your future depends on it, because it does. Practical shift number 5. Treat every problem as a system failure. Most people solve problems once, and then solve them again and again and again. That's not building, that's coping. If something breaks repeatedly, or consumes you emotionally, or drains your time, don't ask, how do I fix it today? Ask, how do I eliminate the root cause permanently? Design a system. Automate a reminder. Create a checklist. Train someone else. Simplify the process. Every time you build a solution that works without you, you increase capacity. Every time you install a safeguard, you reclaim bandwidth. Every time you solve something once and for all, you level up. That's how empires are built. Practical shift number 6. Reflect and recalibrate weekly. Growth without awareness leads to burnout. You don't just need speed, you need alignment. Set aside 1 hour each week to ask, what did I do this week that drained me? What did I do that energized me? What did I carry that someone else could have handled? What repeated problem could become a system? What one improvement would make next week easier? This is not busy work. This is how you build capacity with intention. Because without feedback, you repeat. With feedback, you refine. And refinement is where true growth lives. Capacity isn't a trait, it's a habit. You are not born with capacity. You build it, day by day, step by step, small shift by small shift. This isn't about motivation, it's about structure. Because emotion fades, but systems stay. And if you design your life around habits that compound, your capacity will grow whether you feel inspired or not. That's the secret of the rich. They don't wait to feel ready. They build what makes readiness irrelevant. In the next part, the final shift, we'll bring everything together. We'll show you why the rich don't obsess over how much they make. They obsess over how far they can go. Final shift. Stop asking how much. Start asking how far. We've come full circle, from breaking the illusion of income to building real capacity, to designing systems, leveraging tools, expanding mindset, and protecting time. And now, the final shift. Because in the end, This is the difference that separates those who stay stuck from those who scale into the life they were meant to build. It's the question they live by. The poor ask, how much can I make? How much money? How much success? How much faster? How much more? But the rich, they ask something entirely different. How far can I go? Because wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how far your vision can stretch, how far your systems can reach, how far your leadership can scale, how far your impact can echo beyond you. Let's break this final mindset shift. The how much mindset keeps you trapped in metrics. Most people are obsessed with metrics. How much per hour? How much per sale? How much per client? How much per week? They chase money like it's the scoreboard, constantly refreshing, comparing, adjusting. But that kind of thinking locks you into a finite game. It puts your self-worth in digits, your ambition in boxes, your freedom in formulas. You're always trying to do more, earn more, prove more, inside a system that never lets you breathe. The question, how much, creates pressure. It breeds urgency. It keeps you short-term focused. You're climbing a ladder without realizing it's leaning against the wrong wall. That's not wealth. That's the illusion of progress. The how far mindset expands your life. How far is a different game entirely. It's not about maximum, it's about multiplication. Not about how high you can spike, but how deep you can build. Not about numbers on a screen, but about distance traveled over a lifetime. When you start asking, how far can I grow this idea? How far can my leadership reach? How far can I scale this system? How far can I push the limits of what I thought was possible? How far can I build beyond myself? You no longer think like a hustler, you think like a visionary. You design for legacy. You operate with margin. You scale with patience. You build with conviction. You stop chasing transactions and start building transformation. How much creates scarcity? How far creates expansion? The question, how much, is always rooted in scarcity. It assumes there's a limit, that you must fight for a slice, that you must squeeze more out of the same space. But how far is rooted in abundance. It assumes there's more to build, more to create, more to become, more to reach. It shifts you from taking more to creating more. The person asking how much is focused on surviving. The person asking how far is focused on scaling their capacity until it matches their calling. You're not just building wealth, you're building a vehicle. Every action you take, every system you design, every decision you make, it's not just about income, it's about building a vehicle that carries your life forward. So the real question is, how far can this vehicle go? Can it move without you? Can it grow without you? Can it serve without you? Can it outlast you? Because that's what the wealthy build. Not just cash flow, but continuity. Not just success, but scalability. Not just money, but momentum. The poor build until they can rest. The rich build so it never stops. Don't max out your income, max out your life. This isn't just about business. This is about your life strategy. You weren't born to trade time for money until you're old. You weren't built to stretch your hours until there's nothing left. You weren't designed to hustle forever and call it ambition. You were built to build, to design, to multiply, to lead, to rise. And that's what capacity gives you. Not just income, not just results, but the space and structure to go further than you've ever imagined. So stop chasing how much, start chasing how far. final words. This is the call. To rise above short-term obsession, to escape the loop of survival, to build a capacity that makes freedom inevitable, to design a future that scales without your presence, and to choose the game the wealthy are actually playing. Not the game of working harder, but the game of thinking bigger, of building broader, of going further. Your ceiling is not your income, it's your capacity. And your future begins the moment you decide to raise it. One system, one shift, one strategic decision at a time. So, how far will you go?